Hello, and welcome back to the God the Artist podcast. I'm your host, Morgan McCarver, and today we have special guest, Mr. Drew McHolm. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Nice to meet you, Morgan. Thank you for inviting me.
I am so excited to talk about your book, Minister of Justice. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's a basically an espionage counter-terrorism book that begins in Scotland with a guy called Peter Kennedy as the main character, who gets wrapped up in the world of espionage. He's just a regular guy, and he's in the wrong place at the wrong time because of a love interest he's pursuing, and gets wrapped up in this whole thing, and that takes on a life of itself, and uh, moves around from different countries to countries, and eventually ends up in the States. Experiences a what I would say a forgiveness redemption situation where his past has left him with a lot of questions, moral questions, ethical questions, and burdened by a whole bunch of things. And then he goes through a spiritual experience when his life changes entirely, which leads him into a whole bunch of new problems and new
Mm.
ethical challenges. And so it's got a lot in it. It's got typical espionage spy stuff. It's got love interests, some romance in there. It's got a lot of twists and turns. And it's the reaction we've got from a lot of people has been, can't put it down. When's the next book coming out? So
Oh,
that's been encouraging. So working on
yes,
the
that's exciting.
working on the second one, and probably it'll be a trilogy, I think. So yeah.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
Hmm.
Um, so is this the first book you've written?
Yeah, it's very first book. I've written a lot of stuff. Yeah, I've been a pastor a long time and a businessman. So I've written, most of my stuff has been reading theological, technical, academic stuff. I haven't read a whole lot of novels, funnily enough, over the years, but I did pick up a Vince Flynn book. I was traveling somewhere and I was bored and I wanted something to read. So picked up one of his books and read it, loved it, and thought, yeah, I could maybe write something like that. So that's kind of where it all started.
Wow, that's awesome. So you were inspired by this other book, and then what kind of gave you the courage to say, "Hey, I could be an author"?
You get to that age where you think, okay, what are the things I've not done that I would like to do and then finish? And so this year's targets have been the book and also finish my doctorate. So we get that done in the same year. And so
Wow.
that's the kind of bucket list things, you think I need to finish this. And my dad was a great inspiration. He's gone now, but he was one of those guys that never failed to finish a project.
Hmm.
Anything he took on, he got it done. And so I think that was part of my uh, inspiration to finish this thing. It's been on the go for about 3 years on and off. I'm a
Hmm.
full time pastor, but that was the inspiration to just get it done, get it finished.
Wow, that's amazing. And so it's set in, or it starts in Scotland.
Mhm.
And if the listeners haven't picked up from your accent yet, that is where you also
Yep.
were born
Mhm.
and started. What brought you to the United States?
To study theology. So I'd been a pastor. I'd
Wow.
started off my career in various places, and I was a steel mill guy. I was a railman. Worked for Cummins Diesels at one time as a capital planning analyst. And then our church in Scotland was growing exponentially, and they invited me to come on staff as a young guy to be the youth pastor, and basically the guy that did all the stuff the senior pastor didn't want to do. And so I'm on staff there, and I was there for a number of years, and it just got to the point where I thought, I need to dig deeper, and so decided to travel to the States, study theology, and the intention was to go back to Scotland, but we got an invite to pastor a church in Austin, Texas, so that's where we began our journey over here, and we've been all over. We're up in the frozen north right now in Iowa, which is a pretty cool place, but let me see, I traveled to Florida first of all, then to Texas, then I lived in the Virgin Islands for a few years, then back to Texas, then to California, then back to Texas, and then up north. So it's been
Wow.
a remarkable journey, really.
Do you have a place, the favorite place you've lived so far?
St. Thomas, we really enjoyed living,
Mm.
and we had a business there, and then my wife and I do music together, so we played music every night. and
Oh,
various
wow.
places, restaurants and stuff, and spent the afternoons on the beach. So did work in the morning, afternoon on the beach, and then played gigs at night time. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So you've traveled all of these different places. Is
Hmm.
that some of the inspiration that comes into
Yeah.
your novel?
Yeah, yeah. I think the biggest inspiration, I lived through the 70s and 80s when the IRA thing was going on in Britain and all the bombings were happening. So I had a lot of knowledge of that. And then most of if not all the places that I've wrote about in the book, I've either visited or lived. And so it's a lot
Hmm.
easier writing about places rather than just make stuff up. And that had its own challenges in itself because the book begins in around 1977 and then crescendos in about 2001. So it's a 20 plus year span. So to make sure by research that all the places in Scotland and Ireland I mentioned actually existed back then. And so that was a lot of work doing that. And the weapons people were carrying were true to that particular time of year. So that was fun,
Hmm.
just doing that kind of research behind the thing because I wanted it to be believable. I detest novels or movies that are just not believable. It's too much. And so I made sure that the main character, Peter Kennedy, was almost the antithesis of James Bond. He's not suave or debonair or wears a tux and all that kind of stuff. He's just a blue collar guy that got involved through a set of circumstances that he didn't choose.
Hmm. So you mentioned there's some moral and ethical decisions in there. And I know we don't want to give anything away, but can you kind of talk about how that came about?
Yeah, I mean, right from the get-go, he's challenged with, he as I said, he witnesses something that he was never meant to see, and his dilemma there is because he's in love with this girl. What do I do with the information? Do I report the information? Could she get in trouble? So he has to wrestle with that. And then after the fact, he goes through his, salvation experience. Basically, he is faced with a circumstance in his family that's tragic that he has to reconcile. Like, what do I do about it? Now that I'm a pastor, but I used to be an assassin with the security services, and so he has to balance up his response to deal with the situation. So there's a lot of moral twists and turns in the thing that he's got to make.
Hmm.
And sometimes he makes good decisions, sometimes bad. And the whole idea of doing that was to point out to people that we don't always make the best moral choices all the time, and we've got to live with them and then recover from them. And so, yeah, there's a lot of that. But the other
Yeah.
thing, Morgan, I wanted to make sure is that he is so burdened by his past that when he finds redemption, he's a changed guy. And so I wanted to have that in the book so that anybody out there that thinks, well, I've done so much, there's no way that God can forgive me, then they'll get a different message from the book. So, yeah.
Hmm. Wow, that is powerful because I think um, we do, especially in the United States anyway, think that we have to be all perfect or that we have to look like we're all perfect,
Right. Oh, yeah.
especially in a church setting, right?
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 It's so funny because I used to tell people when people asked me how one of my churches was doing, I said, I don't know. I mean, we've got 500 people, back in Austin, and I don't. I'm not there. I see them on Sunday morning. They look holier than God, almost. They're just fantastic. How they live from Monday to Saturday it's up to them. Hopefully, they're living right, and you can't be there all the time. So, yeah, yeah. It's reality is very different from sometimes the picture that we paint. You know.
Hmm. And so your book is kind of playing with these ideas of um, what does it really mean to look like a Christian or to be a Christian? And is
Mhm.
it set in let's see, you said it's set kind of rounding out into modern time. Is that correct?
What happens is he eventually has to leave the United Kingdom for a lot of reasons, different reasons, and ends up in the States and Texas, and that's where he experiences this life-changing moment.
Mm,
And as I say, things just accelerate from there. I mean, he does really well in some ways, and then an event happens that totally challenges him to the core, and
mm,
uh, and that's where it takes off. And so it's like a cliffhanger. You know, the end of it, everybody's like, okay, we get it. What's happening next? Who's which characters are coming back in book two? So about all these questions, which is really cool, really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it took you about 3 years, you said, to write the first one.
Yeah,
What's the timeline for the second one?
good question. I'm actually working at right now. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of what I do normally is I write the outline, you know, the plot, you know, where it goes and all that, and then fill in all the gaps. And so, well, I think I'm well on the way with the plot. And I've made it so that there are even more cliffhangers, twists and turns, you know, moral, ethical, even more than the first book. And so I think I'm really hoping to have the thing done by the spring, you know, and out by the spring of the following year. So and if I can
Mm.
get some peace and quiet, I may even accelerate that a bit. I discovered I write better when I'm around water. So I need to go
Oh,
to a beach somewhere and just sit in a balcony and just write. So, or a lake or
yeah.
whatever.
I guess Iowa's landlocked, so
Pretty much. I
have
mean,
to take
yeah,
vacation.
we've got fields of corn and fields of beans, and that's about it. So,
Yeah.
uh, so the last time I was in St. Thomas, I did a lot of writing over the week or 10 days
Hmm.
there, and that was inspiring. And so, well, yeah, it's yeah, we'll probably maybe in January we're hoping to go back, and that may accelerate the book a little bit more. So we'll see.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Mhm.
So, what would you say the hardest part of writing your first book was?
Great question. Number of things. The first thing is just finding space when you're not doing this professionally, and then there's lots of gaps in between, so you're not following the flow all the time. You might lay it down for a week because you're too busy, and then pick it up again. So you got to rehearse what you just did, and that's time consuming. But I think the one of the hardest parts was to stop tweaking the thing, stop changing it. I mean, it was. I mean, we changed everything. I mean, the initial chapter changed, and I've some great friends that I gave the manuscript to when I was writing. I said, "What do you think? Does this make sense?" And they were very honest in their comments. So tweaked it a lot, and then you got to the end of the book. And the other thing that was difficult was just grammar and syntax and all that kind of stuff. And that's when you've been away from college for a while. That's a challenge as well. And I did have a good process that I ran, for I didn't run anything through AI for suggestions, but I ran it through a process over grammar, spelling and all that
Mm.
kind of stuff. And that kind of helped a bit, you know.
Hmm.
But laying it down, finally saying that's it. I'm not going to change anything else. It is what it is. That was a challenge.
Yeah. It's hard to kind of give it into the hands of somebody else once you've been holding on to it for so long, I think.
Yeah, it is. Everybody around us have been really helpful. We've done a bunch of book signings up here. We're heading down to Texas we've got a home down there, so down there to do 3 or 4 big book signings there. And we do this thing called sing and sign because my wife and I sing. So we do some
Mm.
music and then we sign some books and do some music, sign some books. So and we've got other friends, other musical friends in Austin coming to help us with this. So that's gonna be a
Oh,
fun.
wow.
Yeah, enjoy that.
Yeah, too bad I'm not closer. That sounds like so much
Yeah.
fun.
So where
Are
are you?
this
Where are you from?
I'm in North Carolina,
North
so
Carolina. Oh, love that
yeah,
state
so
there.
Texas is a little far.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you'll
just a
have
bit.
to do a video version one day.
Yes, yeah, indeed. We will. We will. We actually are. We got a gal in our church is really talented. In fact, she designed the book cover and all the photography and does all our publicity. So we're talking about doing some videos of the book signing events and music and all that kind of stuff. So we'll end up posting them on our website over there.
Yeah, awesome. So that brings up a great question. You are coordinating your writing with your singing and your wife's singing as well, and then also another artist in your church. What kind of
Mhm.
inspired you to tie all of this creativity together?
Well, we knew that Christina, our friend, she was a videographer, photographer, marketing guru. She actually works with Farmers Insurance, doing all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And she, we brought her on to help us with the project, and she just came up with. We told her the basic idea of what we're looking for, and she just produced it. So it was very, very easy.
Mm,
She saved us a lot of time and money as well doing that. And then we hired a publicist who is doing things like the Pod Match podcast stuff for us and various other things to promote. And then, being a rookie at this thing, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know how do you get the algorithms and Amazon to, promote the thing and all that. And it's just, so we're learning as we go, basically.
hmm
So I think the big thing we're getting now is we know we need to get all the people who bought books to do reviews, because apparently that's the thing,
Mm.
else stuff. So I'll probably do a video about that, just to say, if you bought a book and you like it, please go to Goodreads or Amazon and say some nice things and click a few stars. So yeah, it's been
Yeah.
really interesting. There's just so much to the process that we are unaware of. So.
hmm Yeah, that was new for me too. Like I thought
Mhm.
once I finished the manuscript, that was the hard part. And it's like, oh no, that's the easy part.
Yeah, you're right. That is the easy part. It's just get more complicated. After that, and I've got to look at my time frame, because I'm full time working, and it's like, okay, you want me to do this and you want me to do that, but the problem is, once you start it, you've got to keep it going. It's not as if it's a
hmm
one thing. So people are talking about Substack, and we don't have an Instagram account yet, and so that's all good and well, but you've got to keep on top of it and responses and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how it goes.
So how do you balance all of that between the book and being a full-time pastor and getting your doctorate, right?
Well, this year has been really has been interesting. The people at church are really generous with my time, and very excited about all of that. And so mostly just night times and weekends, and there's always things that happen in churches. People get sick, people die, you got to do funerals. We do a lot of, the church I pastor up here is a very famous church. And so it's one of these destination wedding places. So I do about 100 weddings a year. It used to be
Wow.
500. We've done 76,000 weddings since 1864. So
Oh my goodness.
it's a little brown church. A song was written about the church called Church in the Wildwood, which made the church famous, and it's a famous
Mm.
song. So we have visitors here all the time, and tours and all that. So we keep busy, and then I pastor another church in the country at the same time. So yeah, and I like that, like it that way, because I get bored really easy if I'm doing nothing. So I'd rather keep the momentum going.
Yeah, sounds like you won't be bored for a while.
That's for sure. Yeah, no kidding. And if this thing takes off, who knows? We don't know what that looks like, and so that would be an interesting challenge. Really would.
hmm yeah, what is the next step? Is it an audiobook or a movie or
That's a. It's funny you should mention the audiobook. So I've been asked that by a whole bunch of people, and are you going to do it yourself? Because Scottish accent and all that. And I joke
yeah.
and I say, well, no, I'm actually trying to get Gerard Butler to do it, but yeah, I'm not sure he'll be available. My wife is really keen on Gerard doing it for whatever reason, and so I think I'm going to experiment. I got a nice studio here, a lot of audio equipment, so I may try a chapter and beta test it with a bunch of people, and if they think it's okay, I might go ahead and record the rest of the book. And again,
Oh,
I'm not sure
exciting.
I'm not sure what the process is after that to get it to get out there. So I'll rely on the publisher for that, how that works.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, to be able to do the audio yourself, I'm sure people would love that.
I think so. I think so. It'd be a long, I mean, gosh, it's 35 chapters or something like that. So it's going to be a long process. And so, I think I'll just do a chapter at a time and just see if people like it and take it from there.
hmm So you mentioned that your main character kind of has a come to Jesus moment, for lack of a
Mhm.
better
Yeah,
phrase.
right.
Um, is that similar to your own testimony, or how did you come about writing that part?
Yeah, somewhat, not quite as dramatic. I was 15 when I became a Christian. Mum and dad are solid believers, great people, wonderful people, and hauled me to church every moment of the day. It's like all the time. We had three services on a Sunday, so it was like, oh. And I was the typical rebel. I had no desire. I actually won National Bible Study Awards when I was a pagan. So I was able to
Wow.
just study. And of course, being drug along to youth groups and all that, I had no concept of following Christ until I went to a youth camp. And to be honest with you, the only reason I went to youth camp was a couple of girls there that I kind of liked. And so I tried to along to this youth camp. And I remember one of the evening get-togethers where people were singing and sharing their testimony. This gal got up to sing, and she was the worst singer I think I've ever heard in my life. Awful singer. And yet, whatever she was saying, can't remember what it was. I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and just felt the
Wow.
conviction of the Holy Spirit, and realized that my salvation was not dependent on my mother and father or church or anything to do with me and God. And one of the youth leaders saw it. A mature guy came up and he knew what was going on and led me to Christ, and everything changed after that.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it was kind of dramatic for me at least. And funny it's funny because right after I made the decision to follow Christ, someone was practicing bagpipes in the house next door to the school we're all in. I thought, what a heavenly moment! It's like God is serenading me with bagpipes because I made the right
Oh,
decision.
wow.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that was a long time ago.
I
But
love that.
yeah.
And so then your character kind of, or your main character in the book kind of has that same situation.
Yeah, he does, and he just realizes that he doesn't think that forgiveness is possible given what he's done, and he meets somebody who assures him that there's nobody beyond God's reach, and so that's kind of how he has that moment, and then, as I say, his life totally changes after that.
Mm. Where do you see books 2 and 3 going in this story?
The second, the one I'm working on right now is, as I say, actually got a lot more twists and turns than the first one. There's a lot of intrigue in it. There's still, shooting and all the kind of typical stuff you get with a spy novel, but there's just a lot more heady stuff. People have to think through, you know, who did what and why, and then the last one, I'm not quite sure yet how that's going to, it depends what I do with the characters at the end of book two, because I always want to leave
Mm.
that little twist, and so I can say that the twist in book two is going to be more dramatic than book one. Right? That's
Mm.
so yeah. It'll keep
That's
people with.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best compliment I had was a guy the other day. I was doing a signing, and he came up and said, "I love your book. It's fantastic. Natural storyteller. And by the way, I've read every James Patterson book that he ever wrote, and yours is good." He didn't say mine is as good as. He just said yours is good. So I thought that was a compliment. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mm.
Awesome. I love spy books, like,
You do?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a big audio person. I just listened to
Yeah.
one that was a true story about uh a woman in World War II. But
Cool.
anyway, I love things like that. And I don't think I have ever read a spy book that is Christian. So I'm really interested by that.
Well, it wasn't, to be honest with you, it's not written as a Christian book. But there's that element right in the middle of it. So it's earthy at the beginning. And I'll tell you what, if we're off camera, give me your address. I'll send you one. So you've got to get
Oh,
a
cool.
copy. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, so there's a couple of minor swear words in it, nothing dramatic. I tested it with a bunch of people. It's so funny because one of my author friends who's right now doing a screenplay for his third book, he had a couple of swear words in his book, and he went to a Christian publisher, and they said to him, "We're kind of concerned about these, a couple of swear words in here." And he said, "Oh, have you read the book yet?" And he said, "Well, not all of it." And so, well, if you remember, the first part of the book is set on a US Navy destroyer. He says, "So can
Mm,
you imagine the captain of the boat looking at a missile heading his direction, going, 'Oh golly gee, there's a missile.'" So there's a
yeah,
little bit of that. So a little bit of love interest, but nothing dramatically, offensive in any way. And I let the people in our church read the book, and they were fine with it. So yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, so as a pastor and an author, how do you feel about the touchy topic of cuss words and things like that?
I think if you use it properly and don't get into the really bad stuff, and there's none of that. And actually, the way I did that was at the very beginning. Kennedy, the character, the girl that is interested in him discovers that he's a different kind of guy, that he doesn't use that kind of language. Everybody in Scotland, to be honest with you, uses the F bomb all the time. It's just all over the place. And so I wanted to really set the scene by saying, I don't do that. I don't use that kind of language because I think it's lazy English, you know.
Mm.
Other than being offensive, it's just a lazy way of speaking. And so that sets the scene. So he doesn't. So it's the other characters around him that are, bad people that use a couple of words here and there.
I love that phrase, lazy English. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it's a it's a sign of an undeveloped mind.
Mm.
Don't need to do it.
So, what has God shown you through this whole process of writing the book?
I think the main thing has been stickability, really
Mm.
to finish something I started. Um, there's lots of things in our life that we start and we don't finish. We get bored, we get fed up, we get distracted, whatever. And I felt that this is kind of like a test, that I need to see this all the way through and get it done. And so I think that the biggest part of rejoicing over this thing is really just finishing. Whether it makes any money or not is almost like secondary. It's like I got it done, and that's what the publicist and the publisher said. He said, you're part of the 2% of people that want to do this that actually get it done. So
Mm.
that's cool.
Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
So, being a pastor and an author, and a musician, what do you hope that your legacy is?
Oh, overall, the most important thing for me is that people's lives are touched and changed by things I do. Whether it's the
Mm.
ministry or whatever else that I had and sometimes you don't feel that really you don't see it immediately. In fact, there was a lady who reached out to me when she heard I'd written the book, and she was from my old church in Austin, Texas, and she said that something I said in a mission trip I took them on to way up the mountains of Mexico changed their life. I couldn't even
Mm.
remember. And so I think the thing is you hope that what you do in life affects other people. You leave a legacy of changed lives, improved lives. People. My biggest joy is seeing people that I've discipled or mentored or whatever become very successful, and that's just
Mm.
I love seeing it. One of my best friends in my youth group in Motherwell in Scotland became one of the chief law judges in the nation. And I
Wow.
went to see him one time in court, and he's there with his wig on and his robes, and everyone's calling him my lord and all that kind of stuff. And it was just a wonderful moment that he had done so well. Very proud of him.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's a great legacy too, to affect people in
Mm.
a positive way like that. What would you say the hardest part about being a Christian in this world is today?
Oh, goodness. Wow. How long you got?
I know,
Um,
right?
I think that what's happening in our society is very challenging. I think there's a lot of opposition all over the place to Christianity. I think people are trying to marginalize Christianity, um, get people like me to shut up, talking about issues that are passionate to me. And there's a lot of scared Christians out there who are not willing to take a stand. And
Mm.
I was on a podcast the other day I think it's called Wake Up the Lions or something like that. And that was his whole idea, that we need to stand up and be counted, and not be afraid to speak out, for the word of God, for the cause of Christ, and for issues that we're passionate about. And so I
Mm.
think and then there's a tremendous apathy, I think, in the church as well. Um, People don't take studying the Word of God seriously enough. They roll up on
Mm.
Sundays and just take in the Sunday service and think that's going to be the shot in the arm that's going to keep them for the rest of the week. And of course, that's not the case. I mean, we're all responsible for our own spiritual growth. And so
Mm,
that's one of the big challenges, is to get people to realize that if you want to grow in Christ, then it's, there's people like me and Bible teachers and other folks that can help. But if you don't do it yourself, then it's like I just did knee surgery recently, got a knee replacement thing, and I've been going to
oh,
PT, ever since. And the thing is, if I don't go, as painful as it is, then my knee won't operate properly. And so it's the same with the Word of God, that and prayer and fellowship. That if you neglect all these things, then you won't grow properly spiritually,
mm,
and you won't be able to, as Paul says, give a defense to anybody who asks us about the faith that we have. And my goal is to make sure that people, the get out clause is not to call the pastor, that they know what they're talking about themselves, can
hmm
defend, be apologists for the gospel.
hmm Yeah, that is powerful stuff. What do you hope people take away from your book overall?
I think first of all that they just enjoy it. It's a good read. I mean, they just
Hmm
have like, wow, this has been fun, and can't wait for the next one to come out. So that's been the to be honest with the comments from the people who bought the book so far. It's like, couldn't put it down. I've had a number of people that have said that they read it in one sitting. They just
Wow.
read through the whole thing, and I couldn't put it down, which is a huge compliment. And then I've had questions of, does this character come back in book two, or so that's been very encouraging. So that's the first thing, is that they just enjoy it. And the second thing is that maybe somebody there that and here's the thing: if I'd written this as just a purely Christian book, there's a lot of people wouldn't buy it. They
Mm,
just they
exactly.
just wouldn't. And
Hmm
so by being a little bit sneaky, then I've got that message of redemption, hope, and forgiveness right in the middle of the book. That maybe by God's grace, that somebody reads that and realizes that there is salvation, there is the ability to change. And so, yeah, that would be the biggest blessing from the book, of
Mm,
all, that somebody read it and realized that their life wasn't hopeless after all.
hmm I love that. I think that is so amazing. I'm looking forward to reading this, and we'll have to have you back on the show when you've finished
Mhm.
book number two.
Yes, ma'am. I'd love to do that. That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Awesome. Well, I love to have my guests have the final word. If you want to share where we can purchase your
Mhm.
book, and how we can connect with you, I would love that.
Okay. Okay, so you can purchase the book at our website, which is www.drewmcholm, just my name, all lowercase, drewmcholm.com. And there's two options on the website. One is you can buy just the book itself. It's 19.95 plus tax and shipping. Or you can buy a signed copy that I do for about, I think it's $5 more or something like that. So personalize the book. You can go there and do that. That's the best way to order it. It's also available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and other online stores. You can get it from there. And we'll be posting stuff on. I've got a Minister of Justice Facebook page that we're posting a whole bunch of videos and stuff like that on there, and also on the website. So right now it's on a website, Facebook page called Drew McHolm Author, but we're going to bump it over to the Minister of Justice shortly. So you can get a lot of information there, and ways to contact me and all that. So the website's the best way to go.
Awesome, perfect. And I'll put all of those links in the show notes as well.
Great.
And we will have you back for book two. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks so much, Morgan. Appreciate it.
Until next time.